The Titan does not fire. It simply moves forward, unstoppable, through alien fleets that dare not attack. Planets go dark, whole star systems whisper in terror. The audience feels the suspense. What will humanity do? Will the Titan bring war or peace? The video ends with the image of the warship passing through the stars, while every alien world waits in fear. The galaxy was quiet, almost too quiet, as if space itself was holding its breath. Stars burned in their usual rhythm, fleets moved between systems, and councils argued over trade, borders, and politics. It was the normal life of a vast galaxy, where hundreds of alien empires believed they were in control. But then, in the far edge of known space, something stirred. A faint signal, almost hidden, began to move across the dark. At first, the alien listening post dismissed it as static, a ghost echo from dying stars. Yet, as the hours passed, the signal grew stronger, heavier, and unlike anything they had ever recorded. On the barren moons where outposts listened, operators leaned close to their screens. Their hands trembled as the strange pulse continued, steady and massive. It was not a distress call. It was not a beacon. It was something else. The signal carried weight, as if space itself bent around it. One alien whispered that it felt like the heartbeat of a giant, and once the thought was spoken, none could unhear it. The pulse kept coming, and with it, silence fell on every station. Soon the reports traveled to command centers of great powers. Admirals and counselors demanded answers, but the scientists had none. "The source is moving," they said, their voices tight with fear. "It is not a star. It is not natural. Something is traveling toward us." The admirals looked at one another. They knew what it meant. No empire had ships large enough to create such a signal. Whatever was moving out there, it dwarfed their fleets. On the trade routes, merchants began to spread rumors. They called it a phantom ship, an ancient weapon, or the ghost of a long-dead empire. Across the galaxy, words carried faster than light. Whispers grew into fear, and fear became panic. The smallest colonies lit their skies with defense shields, while larger fleets repositioned at borders. Everyone expected war, but no one knew who the enemy was. The first real contact came from a scout ship sent by the Velari Dominion. Their vessel approached the outer rim, tracing the signal. The crew reported a shadow in the void, larger than a moon, silent and waiting. Then their transmission ended in static. No explosion, no cry for help, just silence. The ship vanished, and with it all hope that the rumor was false. The galaxy shivered. Something was truly there. In the halls of the Galactic Council, panic boiled into argument. Ambassadors shouted over one another, tails flicking, wings shaking, voices cracking. Some demanded immediate attack before the thing entered their space. Others begged for diplomacy. But there was nothing to negotiate with, not yet. No message had been sent. No claim had been made. It was just a presence, and its presence was terrifying enough. Old historians spoke of ancient warnings. They said humanity, long mocked and forgotten, once tried to build a ship beyond imagination. A Titan-class vessel, they called it. At the time, the galaxy had laughed. Humans were weak, a minor species from a blue world, struggling even to survive their own wars. The idea that they could craft a ship to rival empires was absurd. But the laughter now tasted bitter, because what else could create such a signal? Who else would dare? The strange thing about fear is that it spreads faster than any fleet. Across the galaxy, even the strongest empires grew quiet. Their admirals checked their war maps again and again, and no matter how they counted, their fleets would never be enough. The signal was too strong, the shadow too vast, and then after days of silence, it moved again. Astronomers recorded the moment with trembling hands. The object was not just drifting, it was alive with power. Its shape bent light, and energy rippled across its hull like thunder through clouds. It had not spoken, yet its silence screamed louder than any weapon. Civilizations that once mocked Earth now whispered its name in fear. Humanity. Could it be them? Could they have returned with the impossible? The council chambers froze when the next report arrived. The shadow was on course for the central systems. It was not avoiding them. It was not hiding. It was coming straight toward the heart of the galaxy. There was no doubt now it wanted to be seen. It wanted to be felt. Every alien ruler realized the same truth. They were no longer the masters of their own sky. Something greater was walking back into the stars. In a desert world under twin suns, a child looked up as the sky flickered. A streak of light cut across the horizon. Not like a falling star, but something heavier, endless, like a blade across the heavens. The child asked her elder what it was. The elder did not answer. He only knelt, eyes wide, and whispered a prayer he had not spoken in decades. Fear and awe mixed in his voice. On distant space stations, soldiers stood at windows, their weapons ready but their hands shaking. They were trained for war, but not for this. They could sense it without instruments. The presence pressed against their chests, making every breath heavy. This was not just a ship. It was something built to change the balance of the galaxy. And then, as fleets scrambled and empires screamed, the sky broke its silence. Not with words, not with weapons, but with a hum so deep that even the stars seemed to tremble. The Titan was close now. Its outline appeared on scanners, sharper with each passing moment. A body of metal so vast it blotted constellations. Its surface black like the void. Its lights pulsing like the veins of a god. The first to see it fully were the border patrols of the Zalari. Their captain, a veteran of 100 battles, had no words. His mandibles clicked in fear as the dark triangle slid past their sector. Silent, immense, unstoppable. He wanted to order his fleet to fire, but no sound left his throat. The ship did not aim weapons, yet its presence was weapon enough. He knew, deep down, that to fire upon it would be suicide. The report from his fleet reached the council within hours, and when they saw the images, the chamber fell silent. There it was. The Titan-class human warship, no longer myth, no longer rumor. It was real, and it was here. But still, no human voice spoke. Still, the ship did not fire. It only drifted forward, steady and patient like a predator that knew no prey could escape. The galaxy could do nothing but watch. The silence grew heavier with each passing hour. The stars themselves seemed to wait, and in that waiting, fear became something greater. It became dread. Because everyone knew that silence never lasts forever. One day soon the Titan would speak, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The silence after the Titan's appearance was worse than any battle cry. Across the galaxy, in stations, warships, and palaces, aliens sat frozen, watching the colossal shadow glide through space. It was like staring at a storm cloud that never ended. No one dared to move against it, but no one could ignore it either. The fear was not only in the council halls, but also in the smallest colonies. Children asked their parents what the dark ship was, and the parents had no answer. They only whispered to each other when they thought the little ones could not hear. What if it is human? Whispers spread like fire. Merchants told each other in hushed voices at orbital docks that they had seen the Titans glow from half a system away. Miners deep in asteroid belts swore they felt their machines shake with its passing. Priests of old religions claimed prophecies were coming true, that the forgotten builders of Earth had returned to judge the stars. Fear became the air itself. Everyone breathed it. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, the noise was endless. Representatives of 100 species screamed at each other, their voices overlapping like a storm of panic. Some shouted for an immediate fleet strike, to destroy the ship before it reached the core. Others shouted back that no fleet could match something of that size, that attacking would mean only suicide. The more cautious ones spoke of diplomacy, but their words were drowned out by those too frightened to think of peace. Admiral Zeroth of the Thalen Empire slammed his clawed hand on the table. We cannot let this ship move unchallenged. If it belongs to the humans, then they must not be allowed to rise. They were weak once. They must remain weak. But even as he said the words, his eyes darted nervously toward the screen that displayed the last image of the Titan. His voice shook at the edges. From the other side of the chamber, Counselor Rel of the Zalari leaned forward, his wings folded tight against his back. And if you attack, he hissed, your fleets will vanish. Do you want to see your people burned by a weapon we cannot even imagine? This is not a warship, it is a warning. The argument only grew. Threats were hurled across the chamber. Promises of alliances were broken in a heartbeat. Yet no decision came. The weight of fear smothered reason. Outside the chambers, the common people whispered even louder. In the streets of city worlds, in the cantinas of trading hubs, in the frozen mines of distant moons, the talk was the same. The humans are back. No one had seen a human in centuries, not since their fleets were shattered in the old wars. Many had even believed they had gone extinct, reduced to scattered colonies. And yet the legends remained, stories of humans building things beyond reason, machines too strong, ships too stubborn to die. The Titan class was one of those legends, a joke for some, a myth for others, but now it was real. Among the younger races, who had never seen a human with their own eyes, curiosity mixed with fear. Some imagined humans to be monsters of fire and iron. Others thought of them as ghosts, survivors who had been plotting in secret while the galaxy forgot them. But one truth no one could deny: the ship was human-made. Its design was different, sharp and ruthless, not the curved elegance of alien empires. It was a shape made for war and for fear. In the darkness of space, smaller scout fleets tried to watch it from a distance. Every time they came close, their ships reported strange malfunctions. Engines failed. Weapons jammed. Communications turned to static. Some scouts never returned at all, as if swallowed by the silence around the Titan. Those who did return spoke little, their faces pale, their hands shaking. When pressed, they said only one thing: "It sees us. It always sees us." Soon the Council was forced to send spies, not just soldiers. Ancient archives were opened, dusty records pulled from forgotten corners. Files about Earth, old battles, and half-finished projects came to light. And the more they read, the colder their blood ran. The humans had started building the Titan hundreds of years ago. The project had never been declared finished. It had simply vanished. Ships had gone missing near the Sol system. Colonies had reported strange power drains. Then silence. The galaxy had laughed, assuming the humans had destroyed themselves in their arrogance. But now the Council saw the truth. The humans had not failed. They had hidden, and they had waited. On the homeworlds of the empires, broadcasts were filled with rumors. Whole populations gathered to watch grainy, distant images of the Titan gliding across the stars. Every empire's propaganda machine struggled to calm their citizens. Leaders gave speeches about strength, unity, and protection. But the people could hear the fear in their leaders' voices. No one could lie enough to erase the image of the Titan. And still, the warship did not speak. No human face appeared. No message was sent. The silence stretched on, and with it, the fear only deepened. Silence was worse than fire, worse than blood. Silence meant intent. Silence meant control. The Titan was not rushing. It was patient, and patience was far more terrifying than rage. At last, one brave voice broke through the chaos. Counselor Lura of the Avari stood in the middle of the council hall, her feathers shining under the dim light. "We are not the hunters," she said softly, but her words carried across the chamber. "We are the prey. Do you not see? It has returned not to bargain, not to beg, but to remind us that humanity is not gone. They never were." Her words left the chamber in silence. Even those who hated humans, even those who had mocked them, could not deny the truth. The Titan-class warship was a message carved in steel. Humanity had endured. And as the great ship drifted closer to the heart of the galaxy, everyone, from the smallest child on a distant colony to the highest emperor on a throne of gold, waited with the same dreadful thought. If the Titan had returned, what would the humans demand? And what price would the galaxy pay when they finally spoke? For centuries, the galaxy had laughed at humanity. The great empires saw them as fragile creatures from a single blue world, a species that fought too many wars against themselves and never reached true unity. The humans had no vast empire, no great fleets compared to the mighty dominions of the stars. They were tolerated at first, traded with, then mocked and ignored. Slowly, humans disappeared from the stage of galactic politics, their colonies left behind, their voice fading into silence. Many believed the species had simply broken under the weight of larger civilizations. Others said they had destroyed themselves, but whispers never died completely. Old records and forgotten libraries spoke of human ambition that no other species dared to imagine. The Titan-class project was one such story. It was said that long ago humans began work on a ship that was not just large but impossible, a vessel to dwarf fleets, a warship built like a god's chariot. Alien engineers scoffed when they heard the rumors. Impossible, they laughed. Humans cannot even keep their own fleets supplied. How could they create a ship to rival empires? The laughter spread across the stars, and soon the Titan class became nothing more than a cruel joke, a tale to mock a species already seen as weak. Yet the rumors had a darker edge. A few explorers told stories of strange disappearances near the Sol system. Cargo ships vanishing without a trace. Patrol fleets losing power as if drained by something unseen. Those who returned spoke of shadows moving where no planet should be, lights blinking in the void, and a low hum that rattled through the hull of their ships. Most ignored these tales as drunken lies or hallucinations of space. But some archivists kept the records, filing them under human oddities. Now, with the Titan gliding silently through the stars, those records were pulled out again. Council halls filled with frightened whispers as leaders read the old reports with new eyes. It was no longer a myth. The human dream of the Titan had not been a fantasy. It had been real. The humans had not failed. They had hidden their creation and vanished from the galaxy's stage, leaving only silence behind. In the cold archives of the Core Dominion, a scholar trembled as she translated human files captured during ancient wars. They described the Titan not as a single ship, but as a legacy project. "It is not a weapon," one line read. "It is a promise." The scholar could not stop shaking. She sent the words to her leaders, who read them again and again, trying to understand. A promise? What kind of promise required a warship so vast it made fleets look like insects? On military worlds, old veterans remembered fighting humans centuries ago. They had mocked their small fleets, their strange tactics, their stubborn resistance. But many also remembered something else. Humans did not break easily. They fought long after they should have surrendered. They laughed in the face of death. They made weapons out of scraps. And now, looking at the Titan, the veterans felt that old unease return. The ship was not just power. It was human determination given form. Meanwhile, among the common people of alien worlds, stories spread faster than any official message. Merchants told each other that the Titan was the size of a small moon. Miners swore it could swallow entire fleets. Children whispered about humans with glowing eyes returning to rule the stars. Fear twisted into awe, and awe twisted into something deeper. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was not laughing at humans. It was trembling because of them. But the most chilling detail came from the scouts who dared approach the Titan. They reported seeing markings on its hull, symbols written in human language. Most aliens could not read the words, but those who could felt a deep chill. The markings were not of war. They were not threats. They were names. Names of battles, names of colonies, names of fallen. The Titan carried memory on its skin, as if it had been built from grief and rage itself. At the edges of space, in the ruins of abandoned colonies, humans were still there. Small communities, forgotten and scattered, who had lived in silence. They looked up into the night sky, and when they saw the shadow of the Titan, they did not feel fear. They felt recognition. They whispered the old stories their ancestors had passed down. One day the Titan will rise. One day we will return. In that moment, the galaxy began to understand. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had been waiting. They had hidden their greatest creation, working in silence while the stars mocked them. They had turned their exile into patience and their patience into power. And now the Titan-class warship had emerged. Every alien world held its breath because the silence was finally breaking. The humans had returned, and their forgotten promise was about to be revealed. The first clear sight of the Titan-class warship came without warning. For weeks it had been only a shadow, a pulse, a rumor that shook empires. But then, on the outer rim of the Zalari border, the veil was broken. A small fleet of patrol ships tracked the signal until the stars ahead dimmed, swallowed by something vast. At first, the captains thought a planet had drifted into their path, but the scanners told a different story. This was no world. This was a ship. The Titan emerged from the darkness like a moving mountain. Its hull stretched across the void, sharp lines cutting against starlight. It was not smooth and elegant like alien designs. No, it was brutal, angular, shaped with purpose, every edge whispering of war. Entire city blocks could fit on its surface. Fleets could vanish beneath its shadow, and across its black armor rivers of energy glowed faintly, like veins filled with fire. The patrol fleet tried to approach. Their engines whined, their weapons armed, but the closer they came, the heavier the air inside their ships felt. Officers clutched their chests, unable to breathe properly. Systems began to fail one by one. Navigation flickered, comms cut into static, weapon locks refused to engage. It was as if the Titan itself rejected them, brushing aside their machines like toys. One captain, desperate and terrified, gave the order to fire. A volley of plasma and missiles streaked toward the colossal shadow. But before the weapons could even land, the Titan shimmered. A barrier, invisible until struck, rippled across its hull. The alien weapons dissolved into harmless sparks, their power swallowed in silence. Not even a sound reached the patrol fleet. The Titan did not return fire. It did not acknowledge the attack. It simply drifted forward, vast and unshaken. The captain who had ordered the strike sank back in his chair, his mandibles trembling. He knew he had just wasted his fleet's strongest weapons. Against the Titan, they were dust. The images traveled faster than light to the Galactic Council. On giant screens, delegates saw the warship in full for the first time. The chamber that had roared with arguments before was now silent. No one dared to breathe too loudly. The ship filled the entire display, blotting out the background of stars. Its design was unmistakable human. There was no other species that built ships like this. It was cold, efficient, ruthless, made not for beauty, not for comfort, but for survival and dominance. Some counselors whispered the old word again, Titan. Others simply sat frozen, their eyes wide. Generals shifted uncomfortably in their seats, knowing that no strategy, no fleet formation could match the presence on the screen. In the mining colonies, workers dropped their tools when the broadcasts reached them. They stared at the grainy images, their voices hushed. "That's not a ship," one miner muttered. "That's a world that moves." On wealthy city worlds, aristocrats stopped their feasts to watch the same image, their jewels glittering in the dim light of the hollow screens. For once, they too were struck dumb. Among the alien militaries, panic grew louder. Fleet admirals demanded reinforcements, but even as they spoke, their words sounded hollow. They knew it was pointless. Every empire could throw its entire navy at the Titan, and it would not matter. It was too large, too advanced, too alien in its silence. The most terrifying thing was not its size, not its power, not even its human origin. It was its behavior. The Titan did not act like a warship eager to strike. It acted like something certain of its supremacy. It moved slowly, confidently, as if the galaxy itself was already under its control. A lone scout ship, braver than the rest, circled the Titan to capture closer images. Its cameras showed markings across the hull, strange etchings in human script glowing faintly with blue light. They were not numbers, not warnings, but names. Rows upon rows of names. Battles lost, colonies burned, fleets destroyed. The Titan carried history on its armor, a memory carved into steel. It was not only a ship. It was a monument. The scout pilot's voice cracked as he sent his final report. "It's alive," he whispered over the comms. "Not just a machine, it feels—" "Where?" Then the transmission ended. The ship vanished into static, leaving only the last image. The Titan's bow, sharp as a blade, cutting across the stars. In that moment, across every empire, across every home, a chilling thought took root. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had not vanished. They had built this, hidden it, and waited for the right moment to return. And now, with the Titan revealed in full glory, that moment had come. The warship did not speak. It did not fire. It only moved forward, steady and unstoppable. The galaxy held its breath, knowing the silence would not last forever. The Titan had shown itself. The humans had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. You said, the Galactic Council chamber, normally a storm of noise and argument, was shrouded in a silence so heavy it felt like stone pressing down on every delegate. The image of the Titan-class human warship still glowed on the central display, casting cold light across the hall. No one could look away. The ship's shadow seemed to stretch into the chamber itself, crushing every voice. Finally, the silence broke, not with reason, but with panic. A dozen voices rose at once. Some demanded immediate attack. Others demanded retreat. Some shouted for diplomacy, while others simply screamed that the end had come. The chamber shook with fear disguised as anger. High Chancellor Tavar of the Valon Empire slammed his staff against the floor. His voice trembled, but he forced it into a roar. "We cannot let humanity rise again. You all remember what they were like, stubborn, reckless, impossible to subdue. If that ship is theirs, it must be destroyed before it reaches the core." His followers banged their claws on their desks in agreement. But opposite him, Counselor Erie of the Aelari leaned forward, her feathered form glowing under the chamber lights. "Destroy?" she hissed, her eyes sharp. "Did you not see? Your fleets will break against it like waves against a cliff. Attack, and you will not just lose, you will provoke something far worse. Do you think the Titan is alone?" Her words cut through the room, and for a moment the shouting quieted. A smaller delegate, old and frail, rose slowly from his seat. He was of the Dread, a species that lived in shadows and memories. His voice was low, but it carried. "We mocked them. We called them weak. But humans, Humans build from loss. That ship is not just a weapon. It is a grave marker for every wound we gave them. If it speaks, it will not speak of peace. His words sent a shiver across the room. Even the proudest generals shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The great holographic map flickered, showing the Titan's course. It was not drifting aimlessly. It was moving with precision, straight toward the central worlds, the heart of the Council itself. That truth stabbed into every delegate like a knife. Humanity was not avoiding them. Humanity was coming directly for them. Outside the chamber, news had already spread to the stars. Entire populations gathered in plazas to watch the Titans approach on massive screens. On colony worlds, workers abandoned their machines to stare at the sky, as if the ship might appear above them at any moment. Priests declared it a punishment for arrogance. Soldiers polished weapons they knew would never be enough. And ordinary families whispered prayers in languages long forgotten. Back in the chamber, the fear became desperation. Admiral Croth of the Zolari bared his fangs as he growled, "Then we must unite. Every fleet, every weapon. If the humans bring one Titan, we must bring them 1,000 guns." His words stirred some of the counselors, but the most experienced leaders only looked down. They knew numbers would not matter. Against something like the Titan, numbers were dust in the wind. A young counselor finally spoke, her voice cracking with fear. What if it is not alone?" The question silenced the chamber instantly. Until now, most had forced themselves to believe this was one ship, one anomaly, one ghost from the past. But if the humans had built one Titan, what stopped them from building more? What if an entire fleet of them waited beyond the stars, hidden in silence? The thought turned fear into pure dread. The chamber lights flickered as if the Titan itself had reached into the room. Every delegate looked up, certain for a moment that the warship had somehow heard their arguments. Paranoia gripped them. Some whispered that it could read their thoughts, that humanity was already watching them through the eyes of the Titan. Finally, Supreme Speaker Althus, who had remained silent through it all, rose from his seat at the center. His long robes dragged across the polished floor as he lifted his head to face the chamber. His voice was calm, but there was no hiding the weight in it. "We are not deciding whether to fight humanity," he said slowly. "That choice was taken from us the moment the Titan appeared. We are deciding only how we will kneel, out of fear or out of respect." The words struck like thunder. The chamber erupted again, half in outrage, half in terror. Some counselors screamed that they would never kneel to humans. Others whispered that perhaps submission was survival. No unity was found, only deeper cracks. Above them, the image of the Titan still glowed. It did not fire. It did not speak. It only advanced, slow and steady like judgment written across the stars. And as the council drowned in fear, one truth spread silently through every mind in the galaxy. Humanity had returned, and the Titan was only the beginning. The galaxy had grown used to the Titan's silence. Weeks passed as the warship moved steadily through the stars, ignoring fleets that shadowed it, ignoring signals sent in every tongue. It had not fired a single weapon, yet its presence alone crushed entire civilizations beneath invisible weight. Armies trained in secret. Worlds fortified their defenses. But deep down, every empire knew it was only pretending. They were preparing not for war, but for their own fear. Then at last, the silence broke. It happened without warning. On every channel, across every frequency, across every world, one voice spoke. It was not alien. It was not machine. It was human. This is humanity's Titan. The words carried no echo, no distortion, no strain. Calm, sharp, and steady. They cut through static as though the galaxy itself bent to let them through. Entire fleets froze mid-maneuver. Command centers fell silent. Even the smallest child in a colony halfway across the stars felt their blood run cold when the voice touched their ears. For centuries, the galaxy had mocked humans as weak, divided, and foolish. But now the sound of that voice shattered the lie. It was not the voice of a broken species. It was the voice of a people who had endured. The transmission continued. "We warned you. You did not listen." The words struck harder than weapons. In council halls, ambassadors looked around at one another, their mouths dry. Generals who once laughed at human weakness stared at the glowing display in silence. Those who had fought against Earth in the old wars shivered, remembering battles where humans fought long after logic said they should have fallen. They remembered the eyes of human soldiers burning with defiance even in defeat. And now, hearing this voice, they realized that fire had never died. It had only waited. This vessel carries the memory of every world you burned, every colony you silenced, every human life you thought was beneath you. The council chamber erupted into panic. Delegates shouted over one another, some begging for forgiveness, others demanding defenses. But no one could ignore the truth in the voice. The Titan was not a weapon built for conquest. It was a vessel of memory, of vengeance, of survival. Humanity had carved its grief into steel and sent it back to the stars. On distant mining colonies, workers dropped to their knees, whispering prayers they had not spoken in generations. In hidden human settlements scattered across forgotten systems, faces lifted toward the stars, eyes wet with pride. They had been waiting for this moment, the day the silence would end, the day humanity would speak again, and now it had come. The transmission deepened, each word deliberate. You thought humanity had vanished. You thought we were broken, but we endure. We remember, and we rise. Admiral Siroth of the Thalen Empire slammed his claws against the table, demanding his fleets prepare to strike. But even he felt his hands shake. His generals looked at him with fear, not loyalty. They knew their weapons would mean nothing. To fire upon the Titan now would not be bravery. It would be suicide. In the streets of alien cities, billions watched the broadcast in silence. Fear rippled through them, but so did something else, respect. They had mocked humans for so long, calling them weak and pitiful. Yet no other species had ever built something like the Titan. No other species had turned silence itself into a weapon of terror. Humanity had returned not as beggars, not as conquerors, but as judges. The voice gave no threat, no demand, no ultimatum. It simply ended with a final promise: we are here, and the galaxy will never forget us again. The transmission cut. Silence returned. But this silence was different. It was heavier, darker, filled with dread. Across the stars, every empire knew one truth. Humanity had spoken, and their words would echo forever. And above them all, the Titan moved forward, slow and unstoppable, as though nothing in creation could stand in its way. The Titan-class warship moved forward, slow and deliberate, its colossal frame blotting out constellations as it passed. The galaxy had heard the human voice at last, and now silence followed once more. But it was not the same silence as before. This silence was heavier, unbearable, filled with dread and expectation. Every alien ruler, every soldier, every child knew the truth. The humans had returned, and their judgment had only just begun. Fleets shadowed the Titan at a distance, their admirals whispering orders no one believed in. Weapons were primed, shields raised, but no one dared to fire. It was like standing at the edge of a storm and hoping it would turn away. The Titan did not attack. It did not rush. It simply drifted, steady and unstoppable, through the heart of alien space, as if daring anyone to challenge its path. No one did. On 1,000 worlds, broadcasts continued to show the ship's image. Crowds gathered in plazas and marketplaces, their eyes fixed on the screens. Some wept openly, unable to contain the pressure of awe and fear. Others clenched their fists, whispering prayers for survival. In hidden human enclaves scattered across forgotten colonies, celebrations broke out. Old songs were sung again, songs of earth and survival, of endurance and fire. For the first time in centuries, they felt their people's voice return to the stars. In the Galactic Council, paralysis reigned. Days turned into nights, and still no agreement was reached. Some argued for immediate surrender, begging to open communications with the humans and throw themselves at their mercy. Others argued for war, their voices desperate and breaking, for they knew it would mean annihilation. The loudest voices shouted, but the wisest remained silent. They understood the truth. It no longer mattered what the council decided. Humanity had already seized the galaxy's attention. The Titan alone had done what no empire ever could: unite the stars not with loyalty, but with fear. As the Titan crossed the border into the central systems, its engines pulsed with light like a heartbeat that echoed across the void. Alien sensors shuddered under the waves of energy. Every reading was impossible. Every theory broke under the weight of what they saw. This was not just engineering. This was not just a ship. It was a statement written in steel and silence. Humanity endures, and still the Titan did not fire a single weapon. It passed through fleets like they were dust, through defended sectors as if they did not exist. It did not need to strike. The galaxy struck itself, tearing apart in fear and paranoia. Empires turned on each other. Alliances shattered as each suspected the other of conspiring with the humans. Civilizations crumbled not under human guns but under human silence. On one distant moon, a child asked her elder again, "What do they want?" The elder could only shake his head, staring up at the night sky where the Titan's shadow drifted past. "That," he whispered, "is the question that will haunt us all." The final image of the Titan in that chapter of history was the same as the first. A vast shadow cutting across the stars, silent and sovereign. It gave no demands, no ultimatums, no mercy. It only left its presence behind, a presence that lingered in every heart, every mind, every breath of the galaxy. The galaxy held its breath still, waiting, watching, knowing that one day the silence would break again. And when it did, nothing, no empire, no fleet, no world, would ever be the same, because the humans had returned, and the Titan was only the beginning.